Blog Talk Radio.
Your experience begin right now. From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio. You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow us on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride as we are live on Spaced Out Radio. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight I am your host, Dave Scott, and thank you so much for tuning in to spacedoutradio.com as we come in from the frozen Canadian tundra, battle our way past the wild animals, sidestep Bigfoot, and enter Uncle Jimbo's cabin, stoke the fire, heat this place up, and now broadcast to you live on this Friday night, early Saturday morning if you are on the East Coast. Here at SOR, we do this thing 7 days a week. We want to be your official one-stop shop when it comes to the conspiratorial, ufological, extraterrestrial, supernatural, and so much more. First off, we want to thank guitar god BUMBLEFOOT THAL for helping us create a kick-ass new theme song for Spaced Out Radio. You can find that song, Women Rule the World, on his new album, Little Brother Is Watching. It's on iTunes. Hey, if you're on social media, you can follow us on Twitter, @SpacedOutRadio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can ask to join our private Spaced Out Radio group, as well as our other group, Podcast Central. On Instagram, you can follow me at Dave Scott, SOR, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show, and, of course, our website, spacedoutradio.com. This time, as we do every night, we want to welcome in our fans from the Spaced Out Radio chat room, along with Paranormal Into the Night and Paranormal Forum. If you head to our website, you can check out Cat's Corner. Psychic Catherine Fallman will answer one lucky listener's submitted question per week. Be sure to check out tonight's sponsors. Rivulet Reiki and Readings provide healings in person or at a distance. PurplePlates.com. Help heal your body, mind, and soul. Drop into their site and heal yourself today. 80,000 people a month read the new Agora newspaper. Find out what's happening on the other side of politics, health, supernatural, and so much more. And if you have an iPhone, download the Spirit Story Box. It only costs $1. Spirit Story Box, the official ghost hunting app of Spaced Out Radio. It's the first Friday of the month once again, which means it's time for our resident alien expert, R. Keith Andrews, to come aboard for his monthly appearance. This show is dedicated to those who want to learn more about extraterrestrials and contact that many people around this planet are having on a daily basis. Keith is an experiencer himself. He has had interaction with more than 25 different species of off-worlders, as he likes to call them, from reptilians to greys and humanoids like the Pleiadians. Keith has met and dealt with those who are good and those who, well, let's just say you wouldn't want a second opportunity to meet with them. It may sound fishy and hokey when you hear Keith's story regarding the ETs and his amount of contact. But if you were listening last night, our guest, Misha Johnson, who has Keith in her experiences group, will tell you Keith is the real deal. She mentioned that there are special people on this planet that seem to really have a grasp on the ET connection. So tonight, we're focusing on you. There are many people out there who would love to have an ET experience. We often hear people say, I don't care which ones they are, I just want to experience it. Those words can make people cringe, especially those who've had some bad things happen to them. It can be dangerous. Remember the old saying, be careful what you wish for. Now, the way this show works, we do not take phone calls, but Keith will be live in the Spaced Out Radio chat room, taking your questions live, and I will be cutting in from Paranormal into the night with their questions, and we're going to fire this thing up. Keith Andrews, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my friend?
Not bad at all, Dave. How's yourself?
Not too bad. We're kind of kicking things off with our new intro there. We're very excited and pumped up about it. So, you know what? Works perfectly with you coming back on the air to give us some love with the extraterrestrials.
Well, I don't know about the love thing, but, what the heck? The sad part is, most of them are either neutral or benevolent. But the reality behind it is that there are a number of races out there, and more accurately, there's a number of individuals out there that you really don't want to connect with. Like you mentioned this issue that there's people that you've been talking to or been hearing from that desire to make contact with an off-worlder regardless of who. Well, that's kind of like going, I don't mind meeting up with any, I want to meet somebody, somebody famous. I don't care who. So, Jesse James or Don J or Dillinger would be a real enjoyable thing, except for the fact they'd shoot you. There are off-worlders that will quite readily have you over for dinner. Kind of like having Duck L'Orange over for dinner. So you really do have to wonder about the people that are doing this. Now, I was talking to somebody quite some time back that found out about lichens on this planet. And their comment was really rather intriguing. Now, for those people that don't know what a lichen is, well, take a look at your traditional werewolf. They're real. Now, the unfortunate part is this person went, well, since they're here, I'm going to hunt one, I'm going to track one down so I can go into their house, into their den, just to sit down and talk and find out what they're like. Well, I'm not entirely certain that's necessarily a good idea. For the people from up here in Canada, anybody that knows anything about the animals up here, that's kind of like going into a Wolverine's den just to see if you can annoy it. So this idea, it kind of confuses me and intrigues me in sort of an odd way that people would want to make contact with just anybody. If that's the case, that's a mentality that will get people killed. Granted, you're probably going to end up meeting an off-worlder. The unfortunate part is you won't live long enough to be able to relay it to tell anybody else about your experience. And anybody that was silly enough to be with you at the time that you pushed for this random who cares interaction, it creates a real problem for them. It certainly will for you. So, I mean, this is very much, it's that kind of mentality that actually keeps a lot of the off-worlders at bay. Because humans have this brilliant idea that they're better than everybody, they know more than everybody out there, and they're stronger than everybody out there. Well, that's a great attitude, And, ego will take you a long way. But unfortunately, it will get you killed.
And Keith, I can understand that, but some people are just wanting to believe so bad that extraterrestrials are real, and they hear everybody else having these experiences, and there's an unfortunate sense of jealousy or a sense of skepticism that just needs to be proven, that they will take anything that they want. But when it comes to dealing with something you have no idea about, much like people who are investigating the paranormal, you really do have to be careful what you wish for.
Well, absolutely. And, the unfortunate part here, this issue of they want proof. Well, many people will take a look at government documents and go, those are proof. Then you get the other people that look at it and go, no, they're not. They're all fake. With today's technology, proof is going to be, well, you want to throw this one out right away? Bubba from the Backwoods Show.
Yeah, he's gone. He's just here to be an idiot again. We already booted him.
Okay. Just for the people in your audience there, I run into a little bit of a problem because I stayed hidden for, quite frankly, decades because of the fact that, contrary to popular belief, what I talk about may seem like science fiction, but simply put, it's as real as it gets. Before we get into what you're doing with the off-worlders and making contact, just realize something very important. In 1960, walking on the moon was science fiction. In 1969, walking on the moon was science fact. My life, by that definition, is about as science fiction as it gets. Now, when we're talking about really wanting that experience, it falls under a very simple problem. And I do feel for the people that really are truly interested in experiencing it, in having some sort of concrete witness to it. The ones that are genuinely taking a look at, are genuinely interested in making contact, in making a better world, right, a better overall connection. Now, I'm not the one that dictates who they pick up or who they come in contact with. My journey to get to this point was anything but enjoyable. It didn't start out that way, and it certainly wasn't by choice. But for the people that are interested, there's a couple of things to keep in mind. If you're going to call, if you're going to do whatever method you feel is necessary or that you've been led to believe works, whatever you do, keep a couple of things in mind. Make absolutely certain that you keep it straight in your head that you don't want to meet just anybody. You desire to meet a benevolent race. Doesn't matter what the race at that point, as long as they are benevolent. You take, for instance, meeting the Greys. Now, Greys on the whole are simply neutral. They are scientists. Okay, that's simply the easiest way to look at it. Some scientists, even in today's world, sometimes scientists are very beneficial. They're looking for the answers. They're trying to help people. The majority of scientists are simply, if you will, humans go over into Africa, pick up a tiger, tag it, take a couple of blood samples or fluid samples, make sure it's safe when they release it back into the wild. Now, the reality of that, where it comes to other scientists, are they will do whatever they have to, whatever they can to earn a buck. Same thing applies to the Greys. Most are neutral. They'll come in, they'll pick somebody up, they will tag them, take a few fluid samples, take a little bit of DNA, do their best to make sure they're back where they belong, and leave them alone. Well, unfortunately, with humans wear clothing, so periodically clothing ends up backwards or the wrong clothing because, much like humans, grays are not infallible. So what you end up with is trying to figure out how to put you back. You take a look at Srozosians, which are your 7.5 to 8.5 foot armored reptilians. Very congenial, very beneficial, extremely benevolent. They are humans' allies, but they are so strong that it can be dangerous having them pick you up. They do their best, but sometimes accidents happen. Okay, one of the things that you have to look at with that is if you're asking for a benevolent pickup, even some of the off-worlders that are traditionally or are a majority of negative individuals, there are some nice ones in amongst them. Techlex are inherently a nasty bunch. If they invite you for dinner, turn them down because you are the main course. And there is no going back. You don't get a second run at it.
Right.
Okay. Now, the reality of it is, I'm gonna handle this one for that Marlena's got, because people are talking about who's got memories and who doesn't. Right. Marlena's got, yes, but no one who claims to have had encounters. Now, I'm not quite certain how this fits. She goes, yes, but no one who claims to have had encounters cannot give good details. For example, they say they have been on spaceships but can't describe the interiors, etc. Well, the reality of that, in a nutshell, is the amnesia that people end up with, or the overlaid memories, for the most part work. But just like anesthetic on humans, like human-based anesthetic, sometimes it doesn't take. Okay, the other part of amnesia for, because Marlene is the one that has asked or has brought it up, this is for her, but also for everybody else. When you get amnesia, it does come back. And I will tell you, it's not fun when it does, because it comes back in bits and pieces. Okay. The other, Mario, I hate to tell you this, but no, a lot of aliens do not eat you. Okay. As a matter of fact, very few aliens actually have humans on the menu.
Hey, Keith, while we're at it here on the questions, I want to get to Dino and Paranormal into the night. He wants to hear what you think about reptilians. Are they back and forth on the planet? Are they good? Are they bad?
Well, the answer would be yes, 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 and yes. Sorry to put it that way, to make that a little bit more sense. That I deal with directly about a half a dozen different reptilian races. Okay, some of them come and go. Some of them are here permanently, and some of them are just downright nasty individuals. You take the Chitawari. Okay, the Chitawari are a reptilian race that evolved here. So they are not off-worlders. They're an ancient race. They are Terran people. They just happen to have evolved from reptilians. Srozosians are off-worlders. They do come and go, but they are human allies. You have the Teklex, which are, now, the Srozosians are 7.5 to 8.5 foot armored reptilian. Your Teklex, which are your 4.5 to 5.5 foot raptor-like reptilian, are decidedly bad news, although they do have a civil war, meaning some of them are actually nice people. You take the Tormenon, who are about 7 to 7.5 feet tall. They are mercenaries. Simply put, they go to the highest bidder. They are not a nice group to play with. The other issue that you're looking at where it comes to reptilians on the whole is most of what people fear about the reptilians taking over the government. Welcome to V from, I believe it was the 1970s. They did a bang-up job on it. But frankly, nobody's interested in taking over the human government. The humans have screwed it up badly enough. They don't need help. Okay. Now, I'm noticing a lot of people are talking about vampires here as well. And yeah, vampires are, in fact, real. Do they hate garlic? Certainly. Their sense of taste is too high. So, I mean, anybody getting too much garlic is not going to like it. That's just the reality. Now, we've got the Arcturians here. Now, the Arcturians are an interesting people. Eyes on the Skies is actually asking. The Arcturians are very much, they appear very human, but they are a lot more socially disciplined. They don't have half as much fun as what humans do, although they do actually seem to think more than what humans do for the most part. So, but they are, on the whole, a beneficial race. You end up with occasional ones that really don't have the tolerance for people.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, when you're dealing with the reptilians, like I said, there's at least half a dozen that I deal with personally. So it depends on which one we're talking about.
I have a bunch of questions to cut you off here with from Paranormal Insight. We're going to start off with Dino. What alien species are most prevalent on Earth right now?
Entirely on the area. You'll find that, especially amongst the Western cultures, Swazians are actually quite prevalent. The Greys are all over the map. Okay, if you go over into Africa, you'll end up with more of the Chitawari. Down in South Africa, or down in South America rather, you've got the Quaddle. If we go up into Norway and up that end of the world, you deal a lot more with the Nords. You end up dealing with the fairy folk, especially the little people, are all over Ireland. This issue that leprechauns don't exist is completely misread. Okay, so we're dealing with a very big problem, or like a real mix as far as which ones are where. But I guess if I were looking at numbers, probably the Greys are the most prevalent, simply because they are scientists and they work with everybody. Okay, they really don't mind. Okay. Now,
okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. Otherwise, I end up getting really caught up on one.
All right. Nisa asking, do you have pictures of these ETs?
I wish. I've got very few. I don't have photographs, and I am not what we call a decent artist. Okay, I can tell people what they look like. I can tell people their entire cultural background in many cases. I can even tell you their evolutionary strain. But do I have solid pictures of them? Well, no. But then again, I have a little bit of a problem getting technology to work, so the fact that the phone works for me is kind of a bonus. Now, I can tell you that a lot of the pictures that I have seen that people have drawn, because very few people actually have photographs. Okay, they just, we get a lot of photographs of the outside of ships, or more often than not, you get photographs of lights. Very few off-worlders are actually willing to be photographed, if you will. So, no, I really don't. Sonny asked, have you knowledge of an ET that looks like an Ewok? I was told it was a fairy by last night's guest. Oh, but last night's guest said it was an ET. Well, it sort of depends. If you've ever seen a baby Bigfoot, they kind of remind you of an Ewok. But the Bigfoot isn't an off-worlder. Okay, they grew up here. That being said, there is another race that does look very much like what was described as an Ewok. And they are, quite frankly, as tenacious as they get. They may look cute, but don't make the mistake of picking a fight. The nice little part about it is when you're dealing with races like that, like if you look at some of the races, not all of them, but Lucas is one of the few people that actually does seem to have an inside handle on a lot of what he's seeing. So, quite frankly, I have seen them before. They're not prevalent here, but they do come periodically.
Corey is asking because she...
Yeah, that would be normal.
Yeah.
They're not aggressive, but picking fights.
Okay, go ahead.
Idea.
Marlena is asking, who created the names for all the races of aliens?
Well, that sort of depends on which philosophy you want to look at. Basically, if you go back in time, basically the different races develop names for themselves, very much like if you go to Japan, on Earth, the traditional Japanese call their country and their nationality Nipponese. Westerners call them Japanese. Exactly who picked out the name, I really don't have an answer. But what I do know is that, is that the names seem to have evolved on a cultural base, and then as they interacted, people decided to call them things that they fit. Okay. Many times people are actually referred to them. For instance, most humans amongst the other races are referred to either Terrans, Solarians, or they're referred to as being from Sol 4. Okay, that's the nice little part about it. Okay, so I mean the races are named by a number of different people, if you will. Okay. Well, our chat room is absolutely active, and trying to track it is a real pain in the neck because it scrolls way too fast for me.
Yeah, I got this one. Mario is asking. I got to wait for Joey to stop posting here for a moment. And that is Keith. I think CERN now has the ability to open more than a few inches, like a large portal. Are they trying to bring an army of warrior reptilians through the gate or something?
Not
formidable like archons or demonic spirits?
Well, let's put it this way. Best hope they're not, because if they now the way I look at it is this. Yes, they are playing around with energies they don't realize. Yes, it technically could bring something through. The problem, if you bring an off-world race on-world with the reputation that human governments and human peoples have for betraying each other, you can bet these guys are going to come in looking for an ambush, which means whoever calls them through is going to be their first target, because they will secure the door of the gateway as a foothold. Now, fortunately, you really don't have to worry too much about that. As far as bringing the non-corporeals in, well, frankly, if they're non-corporeal, they can get here without the gateway. And the third issue, where people keep talking about bringing races in from a different dimension, well, we have a bit of a problem with that. You see, anybody that shows up in this world has to be third dimensional. They cannot be a fifth dimensional being. They can be a faster vibratory rate, but they don't come from a different dimension altogether. Because if they did, it would turn either them or the planet inside out. Either way, that becomes a bit of a problem. Now, the answer to Marlena's question is, she says, are you saying that aliens speak English? Only some of them. And that is why the Greys developed the hybridization program, was to develop people that could communicate. Okay. That's a cute thing. Cog says you can disable the scroll with the double arrow at the top right corner. Well, that's always handy.
I've already got. Yeah, I've already got it clicked. Thank you, Cogster, our resident cogaholic here. Thank you so much. Got a couple of questions.
I didn't even know about that. Thank you from me too.
I didn't know about that either. A couple of questions from Paranormal Into the Night here. Gail is asking, since you mentioned, Keith, an alien is wanting to serve us for dinner, what do these races eat?
Carnivore, meaning if it's meat, it's on the table. Quite literally what the Teklex eat. And they're really not all that fussy about what it is, much less who. When you deal with many of the carnivorous races, much like the carnivores on this planet, they do eat some. Some are more omnivorous, if you will, just with a heavy carnivorous diet. Okay, but it's kind of, that's one of those questions. It's one of those questions that is very complicated because dietary requirements for the number of different races are incredible. Like, for instance, if we take a look at most of the really humanoid ones, Arcturians, the Nords, they eat normal food. Well, what we would consider normal. Okay. The problem, of course, is that when you get into the ones that are quite willing to eat people, they're not going to have a heavy vegetable diet, although some of the people they eat might qualify as that. So, I mean, it really does. You've got about a half a dozen questions lined up, don't you?
Oh, I got a bunch of questions for you. Everybody's hot on you tonight. As we talk with our Keith Andrews, our resident alien expert. Dino is asking, I think, a great question here, because your story is so unbelievable that for a lot of people, and I know you've heard this before, it's hard to fathom what you have seen and what you've experienced. So Dino is asking, he's saying, not to be so skeptical, but how can Keith possibly know all of this info from all of these different species? It seems a bit overwhelming. I would just like to know what Keith has to say about this.
Well, in a nutshell, and it's, quite frankly, be skeptical. I am. The reality of it is I remember the planet being built. I remember the whole 9 yards of it being put together, why it was built where it was, how it was So my memories, some people remember incredible chunks of information from this lifetime. I just happen to have memories that date back quite literally over thousands of years. And therefore, much as I absolutely agree, the information that I end up with is overwhelming. It is absolutely, if I were listening to me just as a listener, I'd be looking at it going like, you can't have that much information. But I keep getting bits and pieces that get verified by other people, which makes it a little bit hard for me to go, no, it's, I actually went to a number of psychiatrists and psychologists over the years to find out how to tell the difference between my imagination and reality. They all told me the same thing, that if the emotional response and the verbal expression of what you were looking at matches and is time period, is age appropriate, then you're dealing with a real memory. And that is, that's the best way I can put it. My first conscious memory quite literally was an Earthrise. Okay, until I started piecing things together. But I remember I shouldn't say my first conscious memory. I should say my first really pleasant memory. Okay, my first conscious memory was meeting Council of 12 and going to Source because I was not happy with the answer they gave me. So, and when I look at it all, Source, for those people that are going to ask, would amount to what other people would call Allah, God, Shiva. You name the person, you name the religion, they've got a different name for it. So it really boils down to an issue of I simply gave up questioning the instincts and went with it because it seemed to work rather well. I hope that answers it, at least to a degree.
Pat Penn is asking, Keith, there are so many races of aliens with differing agendas towards Earth and her inhabitants. Could you please tell us the top 3 or 4 that affect us the most and what we need to look out for?
Okay, you want to run that by me just one more time there, Dave? She wants to know the top 3 or 4.
Sure. Species that affect us here on Earth the most and what we as people need to look out for.
Oh, okay. Number 1, the Greys clearly affect us the most. Okay. There is absolutely no question there at all because they are all over the world in multiple different colors. Like, there's quite a number of different colors as far as that goes. The second one is the Shazazians, the 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians. They are allies. They actually made contact quite a number of decades ago. Well, in all fairness, they made contact centuries ago, but and they have tried to deal with human governments. They have tried dealing with human corporations. They are allies. Unfortunately, humans seem to have broken virtually every contract they've made with them. But these guys are still there to actually help. They're not there to wipe out the government or wipe out any people. When you deal with, now, the next race that has a staggering impact on mankind isn't an off-worlder. It's the ancient races, the fairy folk. What most people would call elves, leprechauns, sea fairies, they all fall into the same category. Okay, your wood spirit, your woodland spirits, the nature spirits, those have a staggering impact. And I'm going to get into which ones you need to do what with, as it were. But the other one is, quite frankly, the elementals. Because they're the ones that play around with the atmosphere, with the magma. They're the ones that come in and will quite literally move them out, depending on what they're up to. A lot of other races are out there, but those are 4 of the real big ones. Now, the one thing to keep in mind with the fairy folk, with the nature spirits that are floating around, pity's sakes, you want to actually get off well with them? Start taking care of the planet you're trying to destroy. This neat little idea that one of these races is going to solve the problem. I noticed something that came in. I've got to sidetrack a little because it was made very clear here. Cog actually said it. Allah is not good. Allah is not God. Allah is evil. Well, actually, no. And that is one of the biggest messages that everybody on this planet better get through their head. God, Allah, whatever you want to call them, the reality of it is they're all part of you can call it what you will, but if people don't get it straight, that whatever you want to call it, quit shooting each other, it doesn't really matter who is good, who is evil. Gods are inherently neutral. They don't require a worshiper, but they do give you guidance. And yes, the off-worlders listen to their own gods, or what they call their own gods. Now, Joey's asked, can these entities turn out to be the saviors of the human race? Do these entities have the ability to think above humans? Well, the answer is in some cases, yes. Ironically, now, that's yes, some will think beyond humans. Okay. However, are they the saviors of the human race? No. You guys made the mess. One of the things I came back to this planet for myself was to point out that you guys made the mess. You were given very direct instructions, very direct guidance. So were many of the races out there. Think about it. If the Srozosians, for instance, had all the answers, could solve all of your problems, would they have a war going on? We're so much better than humans. Would they be trying to kill each other in the middle of a civil war? If any of them wanted to wipe out mankind wouldn't be here. This is where it gets to be a real bit of a problem. Okay. One of the God goes, so is it the Quran that is evil? That's actually a really intelligent question. The reality is the original books that were written, and I find this with the Offworlders as well, which is one of the reasons I'm involved with them. The original, and I'll get flack for this one, and Dave, you might as well get braced on this one because you're going to get flack for it too. The original books said it very clearly what was supposed to happen. But the original books, the Quran, the Bible, the Bibles, the Book of Mormon, they've all been badly corrupted by man, or in the case of other tomes from different races, by their races, by people wanting to control what was going on. So the reality of it, when you're looking at the Offworlders and who's here to save the race, who's here to solve the problem, Srozosians have actually turned over a lot of they've turned over a lot of technology, a lot of, if you will, cures or the keys to cures to ensure that, to give mankind a little bit of an upper hand. Okay. One of the things that you have to look at is the cures are out there. The cure for cancer, for instance, already exists on this planet. That just hasn't been released. Now, the Srozosians were, to say the least, a little choked about that. The Greys have dealt with an awful lot of different technologies, different procedures to help mankind try and cope. Okay, and one of the biggest things that you find with it, with the Offworlders and their interactions, is the purpose of them being here is to help bring people up to speed on the idea of two massive factors. One, mankind already left the planet. This is not something that is happening. It's already happened. So the Offworlders, the Galactic Consortium, came and dropped into the system to, quite frankly, make sure that mankind is brought up to speed on the ins and outs of that. Okay. The problem that you run into, of course, is mankind has an ego the size of Manhattan and figures they're better and they know better. They don't. The other thing they're here for is to contain mankind, because mankind has something that's really, really beneficial and really dangerous at the same time, and that is a curiosity streak that is incredible. So the Offworlders have stepped in to try and curb that and try and get people working in the same direction. Now,
Keith, I'm going to...
Go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. I got a bunch of questions that are piling up here, and I even forgot our break at the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to say hell with that one. But this question's been waiting for quite a while here. This comes from Bill Cardwell. Since the universe is about 14 billion years old and the Milky Way is about 13.2 billion years old, and with the Earth only being about 4.5 billion years old, Are we looking at it as the children of, are we looked at, pardon me, as the children of the universe? Maybe the other races don't feel we are worth the time to teach yet because of our age?
In a lot of cases, yes. The human race is considered infantile at best. So many of the races either don't have the tolerance for them or don't see them as functional entities. Okay, so you're very accurate on that because they've watched the human race evolve. And right now, they kind of look at it like humans are fighting over a shovel in a sandbox. Right? It's like, and these people have already figured out how to get off the planet. Great. So we've got little proteges here. We've got little incredibly intelligent children that are looking to pick a fight with anybody available, which makes them a bit dangerous. So when you're dealing with the races that, the benevolent races, if you will, they're looking at it going, well, best keep an eye on them and make sure we put them where they're safe. Other ones are, and you're going to love this one, Dave, but there are a number of races out there that are afraid of what humans can do. Okay. That's where things can get really, sidetracked in a hurry, because yes, the human race is infantile, but it's kind of like a childhood genius. Okay, they figure out how to do things that the rest of the races haven't figured out, so to speak.
Excellent. Let me go to Claudia's question here from Paranormal Into the Night. Do each tribe of aliens travel in different ships? Do some travel without ships? Do they have holograms that they travel through, wormholes? How do they travel?
Well, quite frankly, the answer to that would be actually yes. Okay. Because of the number of different races we're talking about, virtually all of them have their own style of ship. Some of them don't require a ship because of the fact that they figured out how to travel via photonic impact, where they literally show up without a ship, but they figured out how to control the flow. Where it comes to traveling by wormhole, that is just plain kind of like traveling by a superhighway. They just simply know how to run them properly, and there isn't any real danger to it. Okay. Now, yeah, Joey is asking, are the entities able to communicate with so-called politicians? Well, the answer is yes. Just like you can communicate with a so-called politician. The question isn't can they communicate. The question is the politician going to listen? That's where the real problem comes in. But the way these different races travel, some of them will travel in combined ships. In other words, basically you take a ferry where there's all kinds of different races traveling, and they travel together from that standpoint. Okay, so I mean, there's so many different ways of traveling. Some of them have, like, there is one technique where I know of a particular ship that is used that uses gravitational wells as a slingshot to get up to incredible levels, incredible speeds. And the idea that you can't travel faster than light, well, we might want to bypass that question, because you actually can. Light is not the fastest thing in existence. It just happens to be pretty much the fastest one that mankind, or one of the fastest ones that mankind has managed to follow.
Keith, Nisa in Paranormal Into the Night is asking, have you ever met or talked with Venusian ETs like Valiant Thor?
I'm presuming that she's referring to the Thor.
Yes.
But yeah, Venusians, the answer is yes, but Thor wasn't Venusian. Thor's Nordic. Other than that, yes, I've sat down and talked to him. Nice chap, bit of an ego, but that's okay. He comes by it honestly. His father wasn't exactly a pushover in that department. But they originally came to try and help people, to help the race at that time. And because of their stature, they quite literally had a much bigger impact than they were planning on. And the issue of, people all of a sudden bowing down and worshiping them, it kind of worked out in some ways, because it meant when they spoke, people would actually do what they said, do what they suggested. But it wasn't that they came down to take over. It was just kind of a side effect of showing up and people going, oh my gosh, would you look at how strong that person is? Okay.
Vampires. There's a couple people asking about vampires in Paranormal Into the Night. They would love to hear what you know about them.
Number one, they're a real race. They absolutely require blood. The neat little idea of, does a cross scare them? No more than it does the average human. Are they afraid? Are they susceptible to garlic? Only in mass quantities. They do have higher senses of taste, which is why garlic is annoying. However, are they susceptible to daylight? The answer is definitively yes. They will flash fry in daylight. They are susceptible to it to the point of too long in the sun, and it will actually kill them. Okay, the idea of, will they die if you cut their head off? Well, of course they will. So will anybody else. You remove their heart, they're going to have the same problem. But the reason that they're so fast is because their muscles are a whole lot denser, and therefore they move faster, making it a whole lot easier. Again, Joey says energy vampires is an interesting topic. Those exist as well. Real vampires do require real blood. Now, fortunately, the mistake is that they don't have to have human blood, but they do have to have something similar to it. Okay, and it has to do with what the blood is composed of. So it's kind of like drinking whole milk as compared to skim milk. Human is better, but it's not the only option.
Thank you for that.
And the issue of, are they immortal? By human standards, yes, because of the fact that they do continually replenish their cells. Okay. Now, as far as are they an alien race, only some of them. Some, quite frankly, I look at it, originally, they pretty much came from off-world, but they were also an evolutionary sidetrack here.
Excellent. We have a couple questions from Space Out Radio chat room, Keith, from Pug Mama. Are there also multiple factions among the Agarthans, inner Earth folks?
Oh, Lord, yeah. Absolutely. Quite frankly, there's a staggering number of different factions from in there, and it ranges the same. It's almost the same kind of a conflict that the surface dwellers have. They've got a reverse problem. They won't tell their people about the surface world. Okay, because there's that same kind of fear issue. Okay, and just a quick little note here, you're welcome, Dino. But yeah, there are different factions, there are different races. This is one of the reasons why when people say, well, the world's overpopulated, I'm like, no, you got a whole pile more room than you're aware of. But you got to get along. Okay, you absolutely have to get along. Okay.
All right, we got time for one more question, and I am going to hit the break. Actually, let's go to a break right now at the top of the hour here on Space Out Radio. Give Keith a little bit of a break. I'm going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to be right back with our Keith Andrews, our resident alien expert, and your questions for the next hour. We will skip the bottom of the hour commercial break, and we'll just take this one right now. You're listening to Space Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be right back. Want to find out what's coming up on the Spaced Out Radio Network? Go to spacedoutradio.com, where you can find our daily list of shows and guests appearing throughout the week. Want to tell us your story? Be sure to sign up for the Spaced Out Forum for free. Maybe you have a psychic question. Drop in and say hi to Catherine in Cat's Corner. spacedoutradio.com, your 24-hour source for UFOs, ghosts, conspiracies, and more. Check it out today.
Are you one of many who's had a UFO or ET experience? Listen up. The AZ UFO show is on every Sunday night at 7 on the Spaced Out Radio Network. We talk about UFO sightings across the globe, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, and more with me, Rich Giordano. I want you to know what's going on in the skies above you, so tune in to the AZ UFO show on Spaced Out Radio Network, on spacedoutradio.com, right before Spaced Out Weekend. Our show is literally out of this world.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. With their money-back guarantee and the many benefits, how can you afford not to get one? Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com for mind, body, and spirit, and expect a miracle.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Brand new discovery beats NASA. This is Patrick Webster Small bringing you the Webster Phenomena every Monday night at 8 p.m. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to talk about amazing stuff, have amazing guests. That's all there is, man. You know the rest. Says ET's up in the sky. I'm going to tell you which way and why. And we're going to have a little combo about these ETs in the sky. We're going to chill. This is Patrick Webster Small, and I'll be seeing you every Monday night at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. Write it down on Spaced Out Radio.
Is the 24-hour world starting to wear you down? Let me from Rivulet Reiki and Ratings lend you a hand. Hi, this is Jolene, and if you're in need of Reiki or a realm reading, come to my website, rivuletrr.wix.com/rivuletrr, and let us help you out. At Rivulet, I specialize in healing your body, mind, and soul, no matter where you are. And be sure to check out the Rivulet R&R Facebook page for your best deals. Remember, it's time for you to make some time for you.
Hi there, this is Jim Tyson, host of Spaced Out Weekend. When you've had a busy week and you're just wanting to chill out and relax, how about listening into my show? That's right, Spaced Out Weekend. I focus on the paranormal, the arcane. I even dip into the techie side of things and much, much more. And I would love for you to come in and check it out. Remember, Spaced Out Radio goes 7 days a week. Dave Scott, Monday through Friday, and me, Jim Tyson, rolling through the weekends. I look forward to having you stop by for a listen every Saturday and Sunday night, 1 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Pacific, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Missed most of tonight's show? Don't worry, you didn't miss a thing. You can head to our website, where you can download the podcast at spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to tonight's show. Here's Dave Scott.
Welcome back for the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Always a pleasure to have all of you with us. Hey, I'm stepping out into the wilderness after this one. I will be gone for a couple of days trying to find my chi, my zen out in the wilderness. Maybe I'll find a cabin that has Wi-Fi or a crater or a cave or something to catch Uncle Jimbo James Tyson, who will be in the hot seat Saturday and Sunday night before I am back in the hot chair on Monday evening. Now, If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do so at Spaced Out Radio. You can give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can give our Instagram page a follow, Dave Scott, SOR. Our YouTube channel is Spaced Out Radio Show. And of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. You are listening to R. Keith Andrews tonight. He makes his monthly appearance talking about extraterrestrials. And here's a question, Keith, that Marlena has been holding on for quite a long time. What can the aliens teach us? They don't seem to be very smart.
Well, that's actually a fair question. What they can teach, though, is, depending on which race, but they can teach how to run a one-world government where people actually do get along, where people that are not doing their job properly are willing to step down, where they can teach how to set a criminal, a justice system up that is actually a justice system, not a paid, not a who paid who off better. They can teach better communication, like better communication technologies. They can teach better graphing technologies, i.e. for checking planetary content or topographical layouts. You know, and the list of what they can do from a technological standpoint is mind-boggling. Where it comes to the social skills, well, quite frankly, it's kind of like trying to teach a 5-year-old. If the 5-year-old's not willing to listen, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to teach them. Okay, so, you know, Amelia is actually got it right down pat, but that's just a few of the things that they can teach. They have taught medical procedures to save humans' lives because, according to most of the off-worlders, human bodies are easy to rebuild. They're very easy to work with because they adapt so fast to modifications. The problem is that mankind has a bit of a problem where every time they're given a tool that can help society, they decide to try and turn it into a moneymaker for an individual or for a group of people. You know, now, there's an interesting question. River Spirit says he wants, I'm curious who he's referring to that wants the New World Order. You know, I'm sort of at a loss there. The reality of it is this, though. Mankind is already leaving the planet. Mankind working together could make mind-boggling advances. Instead of trying to kill each other, instead of taking, for instance, fusion power and trying to figure out how to use it as a weapon, if they were to turn it into an energy source, you know, the amount of food that people are throwing out is insane when you've got people starving. Okay, the one thing that off-worlders on the whole teach very efficiently is how to actually follow a spiritual leader. Okay, they don't, when they get it together, and again, it boils down to which race. But when you're looking at trying to improve a society, the backbone is the parenting and the spiritual side of it. All the toys, all the technology, all the medical procedures in the world don't matter at all if you don't have the wisdom and the will to get along and work together. Okay. You know, the difficult part, of course, Eyes on the Sky says, if we asked for healing from an off-worlder, would they help? The answer to that is periodically. Okay. I have heard tale of some people that have had that benefit, but most people, they want it for they're literally asking for help for things that they can do themselves. Okay, for instance, the political system is completely screwy. The actual system is set up right, but people keep talking about destroying the system altogether and starting over. Well, not necessarily the wisest move. So when you take a look at why the off-worlders are here, well, this is one heck of a library. And as far as are they going to straighten the mess out for you? No. They keep telling people what needs to be done. I keep getting told what needs to be done. Only the moment that you mention that humans have to get along, or that there is no religion that is evil, but there are people that are so self-centered they will I was going to say something really impolite there. But there are people that will take the religious harness and twist it completely out of shape for their own benefits. I saw a blurb on YouTube just the other day, or on Facebook, I think it was, where it said, quite literally, in the United States, we have 350,000 churches. Okay? So why do we have 200,000 people that are on the street homeless when the churches are supposed to be taking care of the people? Now, this is one of the things, when you take a look at, for instance, the Srazalians, they take care of their ill, they take care of their wounded, they take care of their young as a dominant concern. Now, granted, their method of dealing with terminally ill people by human standard is, quite frankly, if you're not suffering from it, or if you don't have a loved one that's suffering a terminal illness, humans would consider the following method bad. But if a Srazalian is hurt to the point that it cannot function on its own, it's killed quickly. It's not left to suffer. Prisoners, i.e. people that break the law, are terminated. They are not put back out on the street and told, just don't do it again. So, and especially where it comes to the food, this whole garbage that corporations are throwing out tons of food that is perfectly good for fear that somebody's going to sue them. Talk to your people in the legal system, and get them to quit letting these cases go to court when somebody sues because they didn't like what they ate, or they got burnt by a cup of coffee or something. This is some of the things that the off-worlders will tell you you're doing completely backwards.
Okay, Keith, I got a question from Joe in Paranormal Into the Night. We are told all the alien races have contacted people and governments and given them info and technology. If the aliens are so smart, why haven't they given this information away so that everybody knows it?
A couple of reasons. And here's how we started, just to put that one in plain view. When we're talking about increased transportation ability, we start talking about dealing with transdimensional navigation. Now, the average person is going to be looking at the radio or the internet right now going, what the heck was that? Or the quantum magnetic flux to handle the electron drive. And most people are going to look at you going, are you out of your mind? Or they go and try and explain to somebody that a thought process can heal failing kidneys. People won't believe them. People have this brilliant idea that the human body has to be taken care of by poisons. And I do mean that quite literally. Now, don't get me wrong. The medical profession on this planet is necessary. If it weren't for surgeons, I'd really have a problem. However, the sad part about it is, Trickster says we're too dumb to be trusted with info. Well, no, it's not a case of being too dumb. It's quite frankly being too ignorant and too arrogant at the same time, that some of the information is downright deadly. You want to teach your kid to drive. Okay, so you take them out in the car and you teach them basics on how to drive. Are you going to give them a Lamborghini and put them into downtown New York? And tell them, go have a happy? It's not practical to turn over a lot of the information. Besides that, they have told people on the whole, and it was said very clearly by a number of different races, be nice to each other. What did you guys do? Decided that it was time to kill each other in the name of whichever god you decided to worship. If you take a human, a normal Westerner, give them a Bic lighter, and put them in the middle of the Congo, and put them with a bunch of pygmies, and they say a funny word, and they flick that Bic so that all of a sudden they got a flame, that pygmy is going to see you as a god. And these off-worlders have come on a number of occasions, and they're still doing it today, going, quit throwing your garbage out the window. Contain it. Quit destroying the planet that you rely on. What do people on the whole do? Oh, it doesn't apply to me. I asked you talk about free energy. Well, free energy is a great idea, but we must understand, and free energy does exist. But you also got to understand, why not release that to the general world? Well, here's an idea. You release free energy to the entire world, and granted, the oil moguls won't be making money off the oil anymore. However, the entire society of planet Earth right now happens to be built on that. And if you wipe the industry out, you are going to throw the entire system into chaos. So it can't be just released so that everybody can all of a sudden have it, because it would kill the entire planet. Well, in all fairness, it would not kill the planet, but it would sure play havoc with society. You think you've got an employment problem now, wait till you see that one.
All right, Amelia in Space Out Radio's chat room has a question. How can we as humans work on improving communications and mutually beneficial efforts with our ET residents/visitors?
Number one, and this is going to sound kind of like bypassing the question, but it's really not. Quite literally, you want to do that, and I'm glad you asked. Walk out the front door and get to know your actual physical human neighbors. Develop an environment around you where the off-worlders are not worried about, number one, are you or one of your neighbors going to end up shooting at them if they show up? Are not going to try and carry on poisoning them when they show up? Okay, getting along to start with is one of the first things. One of the other things is follow karmic law, because the karmic law is the one law that applies to every race. Okay, every race understands, or has been told, has been informed of the three karmic laws that are the backbone of civilization. Okay, no one of these three laws is more important than the other, just like no leg on a three-legged stool is more important than the next. Okay. And yes, Pugman's right, also called universal law. And the three laws are very simple. Be true to yourself, meaning do things that feel right. Okay, if it doesn't feel right, then question whether you should be doing it. And bear in mind, if it's a parent telling you to do it, or if it happens to be your boss, you may have to bypass whether you like the idea. However, the second one is do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. Which means if you don't want to have people stealing from you, don't steal from them. If you don't want people shooting at you, don't shoot at them. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but it cuts down on the odds. And number three is energy out, energy in, meaning what you focus on, what you put actual effort into is what you get. So when you're trying to draw the off-worlders to you, make certain that you're offering them something in the way of an environment, in the way of a situation that is mutually beneficial. Okay, if you're just looking to meet an off-worlder, just so you can say I met one, just so you can say it's real to me, I can see it, I can touch it, well, not necessarily your best way of doing it. And just for those of you that have got this idea that seeing is believing, let's understand everybody out there knows that oxygen is kind of necessary for life. And I'll lay odds, dollars to donuts, nobody's seen it. Like, nobody's seen the actual molecules, but they certainly know they exist. Okay, so it really does boil down to River says if aliens can hypnotize people when abducted, can't they do that with masses of people? Can they? The answer would be yes. Do they bother? The answer is no. Because, again, the idea of the off-worlders is to make contact. They're actually, on the whole, not trying to stay hidden. They just do it because mankind has this brilliant idea. You see one, shoot it first, see if you can tag it. See if you can bag the thing and hang it on the wall or turn it into a stuffy. Now, I'm not entirely certain, but if you went to another planet and the first thing that somebody wanted to do was shoot you and hang you on the wall, are you going to show your face? That's the biggest issue. River says if they were to disclose and people started fighting them, couldn't they shut them down? Oh, yeah. Let me put it this way, River. Just because I've heard so many people talk about this idea of mankind being able to fight on the war, fight them and have all this incredible technology. I know of one ship in particular, one starship in particular, where the main gun, you could fly the Titanic down sideways and still have room to move. So could they shut it down? Certainly. They could pound this planet flat. They could vaporize the planet if they wanted to. This is why when the off-worlders are looking at the disputes that mankind has, they look at them and go, we're looking at a sandbox squabble here. One of these days, these people are going to figure out that everybody's in the same sandbox. Everybody's of the same race, and everybody needs to start working together. If we go back, you take a look at some of the wars, they'll let people shoot each other. Because, quite frankly, when you're dealing with 7 billion people trying to kill each other, a few 100,000 is not going to matter a whole lot. What people don't get, and this is what the off-worlders have been trying to tell you, the energy you're putting out, the stress that you're causing between yourselves is what is amplifying the tectonic and atmospheric instability on this planet. Okay? It's not some off-worlder doing something stupid. It's your own attitudes. And it starts on the home front.
All right, Keith, I got a question from Claudia in Paranormal Into the Night. What alien race lives underwater here? What alien race lives inside or near our mountains? And do alien races have hangars here? Do they need anything from Earth? Let's take it one question at a time. What alien race lives underwater here?
Well, there's quite a number of them, but one of the biggest ones, there's 3 major ones. The sea fairies are one. They're the ones that claim that when you hear about somebody coughing up some sort of a blue mucus type thing first thing in the morning, you can bet your bottom dollar they were taken by a sea fairy. Okay. Then you have, sea fairies can come and go from land. There's no problem with it. Okay. Then you have the merfolk. Now, the merfolk are waterborne. They do not leave the water, period. Okay, they can poke their head above water, but they are not getting out. They're not equipped for it. You have the elementals, which are the water element. Specifically, water elementals are what you'll find in the water for obvious reasons. Okay. But there are amphibians. There are some ichthyopods. There are even cephalopods that are living underwater. The ones that are fun are the amoeboids. Okay. Now, what was the second? Because if we, the list is incredible from that end.
Yeah. She asked some great questions. The second part of her question is, what alien race lives inside or near our mountains?
Well, I don't know if she's referring to the ones that she's at herself. However, you're going to love this one, but the dwarven folk, the little folk, actually are real. You'll also find the magma, magma are in there. You will also find earth elementals. And there are a number of different, there's a number of, dragons, if they actually decide they're going to manifest on the physical plane, quite often end up in the mountain ranges, not so much in the mountains as on them. But more often than not, they tend to stay on the astral plane because it's a lot less complication.
All right.
Okay.
Part 3.
But I'm not. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, please go ahead. Finish your thought.
Oh, I'm not entirely certain where, if she's referring to her mountains in particular.
Okay.
But that's just in general.
Do alien races have hangars here? And do they need anything from Earth?
Well, the Techlex could really use most of the minerals on this planet. They're trying to defend their own home world. Okay. Most of the aliens, yes, they've got hangars here, absolutely. And they've got them in, depending on the race, but they are scattered throughout this planet. Okay, for the most part, they aren't actually taking anything from Earth. Now, there are a few of them that will use the hydrogen content of the atmosphere, and they'll come into the atmosphere, scoop up some of the oxygen, or scoop up some of the hydrogen, and use it for fuel. And so they touch down, pick up some of the air, and take off. But let's face it, it's not like it doesn't replenish. Okay. So that's why when you're looking at that, and in those bunkers, in the underground hangars, there are multiple different races, and quite frankly, some humans do have access to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Ready for another one?
Absolutely.
Nisa is asking, do we have a secret airport unknown by the public used by ETs, similar to the one in the movie Men in Black?
Pardon me for laughing, but there's several. Okay, that isn't exactly it's clearly not known by the general public. Of course, the general public doesn't know about the accelerator cannon that mankind built either. So the fact that mankind, that on the whole people don't know about the underground hangars is not entirely surprising. Okay, but there are numerous of them. Okay, and no, I'm not about to give away, here's where you can get it, you can go and get a picture. There is a reason why they are not made public knowledge. Okay, because quite frankly, mankind has this brilliant idea, and this was done back in Atlantis, where mankind decided that they deserved the technology that the off-worlders had. But mankind wasn't ready for it. Okay, right. That's one of the reasons why they're kept hidden, if you will.
And let's not forget, Area 51 is packed with extraterrestrial aircraft at S4 as well. We've been told that on this show. I do want to answer a quick question here from Gail Hodson in Paranormal Into the Night. She was asking, mankind already left the planet. What was Keith referring to? The moon trip? If you look at, and we are going to, in next month, have a gentleman named Olaf Phillips on where we're going to talk the secret space program. According to the secret space program, we have been colonizing Mars since the 1960s, 70s. That includes Venus. That includes the moon of Saturn, Titan. We've all heard of that. And there's a couple more stops that have had people from planet Earth on there. That does not also include the stations that are set up on the moon. Now, if you follow the secret space program, they have already really found a way how to use wormholes and jump rooms in order to get to these places in minutes, if not hours. We're not talking days or weeks or months or even years. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to jump in on that one with you, Keith.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to tell you the same thing anyway. There's also another neat little piece of information for you, though. Did you realize there's another planet that's actually in the exact same orbit as Earth, but it's on the other side of the sun?
Yes, Nibiru.
No, Mobius.
Oh, Mobius. Okay, cool.
Mobius is a balance point for Earth.
Very nice.
Mankind is told there's only 9 planets in the solar system. I got news for you. There's a dozen.
Dino has a question in Paranormal Into the Night. Have you been told what we can expect for our future from the extraterrestrials since it's such a mess now? Will it ever work itself out?
Well, quite frankly, the answer is, will it work itself? What you can expect from the off-worlders is as mankind works out their own problems, they'll start to become more visible. One of the biggest things that I've come back for in the first place was to sort out a massive misconception that is driving this whole planet into a tailspin. And that is this issue of the religious side of things has to be sorted out. People talk about one God being better than the other, and the reality is, until you guys get it straight, that is not the case, and that everybody is going to look at a different way of understanding things or accepting them until science can catch up to it. Okay, quit killing each other, and you'll find that society actually evolves a lot faster, because it actually is more economical to have peace than it is to have war. And this is something the off-worlders have found for literally millennia. Well, in all fairness, for eons.
Mario is asking in the Space Out Radio chat room, what type of aliens inhabit the Nibiru system? Do you think Nibiru is near Earth?
Well, number one, I think you're going to love this one, but Nibiru. That being said, Nibiru itself, is it near Earth? Not exactly. I keep running into an interesting problem with this, because there is a ship out there that looks quite literally like a planet, and from my understanding, that is what people keep calling Nibiru. Okay, and this is where I run into a little bit of a snag, because the ship itself, there is a ship that literally looks like a planet. Okay, you take a look at it from Earth, and that's what you're going to see. Okay, but the other thing you got to remember with these people is they are not coming to conquer the planet. They're not coming back to wipe it out. Okay, that's the nice part about it. Okay, the hard part, of course, is with the Nibiruese, much like other people, much like many of the other races, they aren't at this point willing to just en masse go, here we are. Because mankind is so full of fear of each other, you start showing people like that up, and you're going to have a massive problem. Okay, if you think humans are having trouble now, wait till you see what happens there. Kind of like why the Strathosians won't just walk down Main Street. Make sense?
For sure it does. Let's get to another question from the Space Out Radio chat room. Eyes on the Skies is asking, do the aliens on this Earth ever run into other alien species? And if they do they have protocols not to fight each other, or how would they handle such encounters?
Two things. Number one, yeah, they definitely do run into each other. There are a number of bases here on the planet where multiple different races interact. And there are very definitive protocols for keeping racial differences aside. One of the biggest things they do is they make sure that the people from the different races, they make sure that the only ones that are let loose on interactive missions are trained and are not trigger happy based on self-imposed prejudices. In other words, if you're sending somebody into a multicultural environment, make certain they're not going in there figuring they're better than everybody else just because they're a different color or just because they've got a different skeletal configuration. That's one of the biggest issues. The other issue is, of course, that where it comes to dealing with things that get out of hand, one of two things usually happens. Either, if they can't determine who is responsible, both parties are shipped back to their own ships or their own worlds, depending on what the situation is. If they can determine who the problem child is, 9 times out of 10, they're terminated on the spot. Problem solved. You don't have that individual causing a problem again, and it's not a problem for the other government. That's the nice little part about it. Okay, but those are the two major ways of dealing with it. They're basically trained to be proper diplomats, not this issue of what I call a fraud or a fake diplomat that goes over claiming to be there to work out an agreement, and in all fairness, they're actually there for their own purposes. The ones of the off-worlders that go to these meetings, that go to these conclaves, are there to find a benefit, like a mutually beneficial solution. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the biggest issue from that end.
Claudia is asking in Paranormal Into the Night, can aliens scan us upon meeting us to know our intentions as a human, or is it just by hearing our thoughts telepathically?
The answer is that depends entirely on the race. Most races can only tell by your actions. They do not, on the whole, aliens on the whole are not just flat out, everybody's telepathic and it's just the thing of the day. There actually aren't that many that are telepathic. So most of their interaction, most of their interpretation is done based on how you as an individual behave, although they do take cultural influence into consideration during their training. The idea of every off-worlder, and I hear it from everybody, they all are telepathic. Well, frankly, no, they're not. Okay. They are, people are, the off-worlders that interact, quite frankly, they do their best, but it may appear telepathic because they are able to get a point across, as in sit down over there, and they'll guide you where you need to go. But you got to remember, when you're dealing with people that do have memory clouding device technology, everything's going to seem telepathic. Okay, see, that's the nice little part about it. But no, they are not. They literally have to do it the old-fashioned way for the most part. Mind you, that can cause its own problem. Okay.
I have a personal question here that I want to ask you tonight, because there's some debate in Paranormal Into the Night about why the aliens are not teaching us. Marlena went through that in the Space Out Radio room as well. How much does free will play in that they have to let this play out? And I mean that in the sense, Keith, that we have also seen many a times where they have, during the Cold War, when we were getting closer to nuclear war, they were shutting down missile silos in the United States and in Russia. And if I'm correct, there has also been warnings from the Anunnaki, as well as I believe the Pleiadians and maybe the Arcturians, that they will not allow us to blow ourselves up to extinction, and they will step in if the missiles ever get fired. What do you know about that?
Well, it's a little overstated. It's not actually humans that they're not willing to let blow yourselves up to extinction. Standpoint, if humans want to blow themselves up to extinction, well, it's unfortunate, but so be it. However, they're not about to let you destroy the planet. Okay, that's where the difference is. And nuclear power will create so much damage to the environment that they actually stop it. And I mean, they did. It's been shown, it has been proven and released to the public and what have you. You know, they do shut down nuclear bombs. This is why they don't care that there's so many up there. And people, you know, the humans go, well, we'll attack the ships. You got to remember, they know how to shut off a nuclear reaction. It's kind of like throwing a big rock at them.
Well, that's a good analogy, actually.
No.
That is a good analogy. I understand that they may not care for us, but there are species, and you've said this many a times, and I will throw this right back at you. You've said many a times there are a lot more species out there that want to see us succeed than see us not succeed. So does that not? So does that not then differ from the answer that you just gave in regards to the nuclear? If somebody, let's say, I don't know, Ted Cruz or Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin, whoever gets in, decides to push the button, are they going to let that happen? Because from what I have heard from other sources, they are not prepared to allow that to happen because they do want to see us succeed.
Well, they do. I mean, it's kind of like wanting to. When I say your children, do understand they're not the off-worlders' children to start with. But do they want us to succeed? Do they want mankind to succeed? Absolutely, because mankind is at a point. It's at a breaking point right now. And they do want to see it get past that breaking point because some 35,000 years ago, there was another human evolutionary period that resulted in the rise of Lemuria, which was a human society that spanned the entire globe, where it was peace. There was no war, there was no famine, there was no prejudice, paradise. Okay, and no, it didn't come to an end because of the war. So are the off-worlders interested in it? Yes. But the fact of the matter is that if 90% of your population wants to kill each other, then what they'll do is, quite frankly, as long as you're not damaging the environment, in other words, stick to traditional high explosive weapons, okay, frankly, you won't wipe the whole planet, the whole human race out, and they'll start over with what's left. Because you got to remember, many of these races are literally hundreds of thousands of years old. Okay. You know, many of them are actually, in all fairness, millions of years old, but those ones are so far evolved, they really don't care one way or the other about man. Okay. Now, the difficult part, Mario goes, do you believe a cataclysmic event will happen soon? Asteroid impact, coastal flooding, second sun? Well, aside from the second sun, the answer is no. But asteroid impact, yeah, quite frankly, and it is very likely to impact about 60 miles due northwest of Sydney, Australia. There's a cute little tsunami that the scientists already know about, centering out of the Easter Islands, or not the Easter Islands, the Canary Islands, that is going to create a really wonderful mess. Scientists know about it, and it's going to create a tsunami that stretches from about the middle of the east coast of Argentina all the way to the St. Lawrence Seaway. And there's a third one that the scientists already know is building. If you go to the border between the Washington State and Oregon border, okay, if you go to the shore of the Washington-Oregon state border, go 150 miles due northwest, there's a neat little build-up point there that is already getting set to build a 10-point-plus earthquake. If it goes the way that it looks like it's going to go, quite frankly, could relocate Vancouver Island quite nicely right into downtown Vancouver. So, yeah, there are some pretty severe cataclysms. Now, the one coming out of the Canary Islands, frankly, and you're going to love me for this one, but I know how to stop it. Not the quake that's going to cause it, but the tsunami that's going to be caused. I know exactly how to break it apart. But unfortunately, I'm not in contact with the people that can do anything with it, and that would be mankind, instead of arguing over who actually owns the property. Okay. Well, that was interesting.
Well, I got a couple more questions here.
Absolutely.
Claudia, I think, asks a great question here. When we die and cross over, can they see us departing from our body? Can they see our spirit in the other dimension?
Now, that depends entirely on the individual and the race. Okay. For instance, Greys, not a snowball's prayer. You die, you die. That's where that ends. However, many of the fairy folk actually can. When you take a look at the elementals, they certainly can. Okay. So from that end, it depends on the race. It's very much a case like with humans, right? Where a human will, some humans can see spirits. Well, some of the other races, some of the individuals of the other races can also see spirits. But on the whole, it's not actually something that all of them do. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. Gail has a question from Paranormal Into the Night. Aliens are so advanced in everything from getting here to walking through our bedroom walls. Why, if they have to do that, do they take our bodies involuntarily? Why don't they use anesthetic either?
Well, two reasons. Okay, and it is an individual issue, but the two reasons are this. One is because of the fact that to do some of the research that they're doing, using anesthetic, they don't understand the human genome as well as they'd like to in certain cases. So, and the human genome is, to say the least, a bit fragile. So much as they can come in, and they can certainly lift the body out, by making it immobile, the other issue, the other side of that, is that they're trying to do what they do without causing a major problem. But if they leave the person somewhat mobile, more often than not, the person puts up one heck of a fight. Okay. I mean, that's kind of like trying to get a blood sample from a tiger when the tiger's conscious. You want the blood sample. You don't want it tainted by the chemical of a knockout drug. But it would be really handy if the thing wasn't trying to chew your leg off. Can hurt many of the off-worlders, especially the Greys. Okay.
Excellent. All of a sudden, all the questions have dried up, my friend.
Oh, okay. So we get back to the other side of it.
Well, what do you want to talk about now? I mean, here we had all these great questions, and all of a sudden, poof. There was a funny question. I will say this. Joe is having some fun in Paranormal Into the Night. He's saying, question, why are there supposedly so many alien aircraft crashes? Are they drunk or are they just bad drivers? I had a good laugh over this one.
Well, sad to say, you put as many ships in the air as there are. A lot of what they're chalking up as alien crashes, frankly, are human technology that they've been trying to figure out. That being said, you also have to remember that the atmosphere in this planet is different. So you're dealing with people that realistically, there's not that many crashes. Okay, if we were to look at it from a statistical standpoint, there are way fewer crashes from alien aircraft than there are from Terran-based aircraft. Okay, it's just that most people don't see the alien aircraft in the numbers that they're there. Okay. And yeah, in all fairness, sometimes you end up with aliens that are drunk. I mean, that just goes with the territory of being sentient and having alcohol.
Well, we do have good booze. Hey,
yeah.
if they get into some good Russian vodka or Mexican tequila or Canadian whiskey, it works out very, very well. You know,
it does. In some cases, that's a whole different question.
I want to fire a question your way. In any of your contact that you have you ever asked about the nature of the Black Knight satellite?
Well, asked about it, no. Primarily because I didn't need to. See, there's the whole issue of it. Now, I'm hoping that I've got the right one, because there's a few of them that are up there. And do understand, I don't watch the news. I don't even have television. Okay, so this isn't like I can go on the television and go, oh, what's on the news today? Right. But when we're talking about the Black Knight telescope, just to make sure I'm on the right one, which one are we referring to? Because there's so many dark satellites out there. Which one are they referring to?
This is one that.
Whoa! You broke off. You broke off completely on me.
There's a conspiracy out there that one of the was trying to take the Black Knight satellite back to Earth, and an alien species actually blew it up. I did hear that on one source. I don't know how credible that information is. It's a third-hand information, so I'm not standing behind it. However, it's a weird-looking black, it looks like a night pawn from a chessboard, and it is not human.
Okay. Yeah, and what you're looking at there is quite literally that. It is that particular. That's why I want to make sure I was talking about the right one. That one isn't Terran. Okay, it's actually an off-worlder, but it was set up simple reason, for exactly the same reason that mankind puts up satellites, to scan the planet and see what's going on. As far as it being blown up, yeah, there was a reason for that. Don't send it to Earth. You realize the fiasco they'd have if that got on Earth? Okay, I mean, there are certain things.
Secret space program would try and get that. You know they would.
Absolutely. You know, the funny thing about the secret space program is it's not exactly secret. Okay. You do realize that they're actually in the process of trying to maneuver an asteroid into orbit around the moon to act as a launch point for further extrastellar activity launches without quite the fuel requirement. Okay, but the big thing we got to realize here, all these races are out there and on the Earth already. And the big thing that has to be understood, and this is across the board, and yes, I deal with a lot of different alien races, but I also deal with a staggering number of humans. And the reality of it is that we have to stop the shooting at each other. Never mind the off-worlders. If you want to meet the off-worlders, rest assured, you take a 9mm and you shoot a Sarzazian, he's going to look at you. And that's about the impact it's going to have, because it's going to bounce off his hide. If you get his attention, he's going to hit you, and your next of kin can be talked to, because you won't live through it. So the whole thing that the off-worlders have been trying for centuries with this society's evolution has been get the people to stop killing each other in the name of some god that they want to fight with. Okay, the idea of spiritual guidance was help people understand that which is inexplicable until modern science can explain it. Modern being the science of the current society. Okay, That's the reality behind that. Okay. The funny part about it is that people haven't quite figured out that if you're talking about going into outer space, you want to meet all these races, you want to get to know these other people, but you want to ignore your neighbor and the people starving on your own street, there's something seriously wrong here. That's where we have to take a look at things and go, what are we doing with it? Like, what is mankind doing here? You're trying to get off the planet, and at the same time, you're trying to destroy, or I shouldn't say trying to destroy the planet. Off-worlders and ancient races alike have been telling humans since time immemorial, quit poisoning your planet. It's the thing you got to live on. Okay? So, quit shooting each other. This idea that just because somebody doesn't believe in the same God you do does not mean they're evil. It also doesn't mean any of the other gods are evil. Okay? You got to get it straight. If you're going to deal with off-worlders as equal, then you're going to have to start behaving like it, which simply boils down to take care of your ill, take care of your kids, take care of the seniors, and for crying in a water bucket, take care of the planet. Who really cares? Really, when you think about it, what difference does it make who you go in and pray to, providing when you come out you treat people decently?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's how the off-worlders, there is not one off-worlder race that I'm aware of that is here on this planet with a government that's trying to tear itself apart. Okay, yes, there's a civil war going on amongst the Teklek, but the planetary government is a unified government on every one of the home worlds that I've dealt with. Okay, this is not a new concept. People call it the New World Order, and it's so frightening because they'll take everything away. Well, for pity's sake, put people into office that'll start repealing some of the stupid laws. Put people into office, into the positions that will actually make the decisions that are best for society, not for their own pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
You take a look at it. You take a look at it, and the critical factor here, and this is why I've started having to deal with it on a more direct base, is there are so many different religions out there that talk about peace and talk about love your neighbor and talk about take care of your ill, and yet everybody's starving in the neighborhood. Okay, you're passing on the wrong message. It's time to wake up and start working together. So the way to get in touch with the off-worlders is start treating each other properly. You'll get their attention that says you're actually growing up.
All right. Hey, we got time for one more question here, Keith. And this is from Claudia, and I think it's a good way to end this show because it's been kind of a tense show tonight. She is asking, what alien race is the most spiritual race out there?
Well, quite frankly, you would be looking at the spirit folk. The original race that was literally the race that came here to first of all create and then inhabit the fairy folk. Okay, they are undoubtedly the most spiritual of the bunch. Okay. They're the ones that came and put this planet together in the first place. They're the ones that designed the idea of family on this planet being two adults of whatever race, whatever gender, and as many children as the two adults decided on living under one roof, or what passes for one roof. They're the ones that designed the entire karmic law that says this is how to do it. Okay. And then they threw freedom of choice in there, and everything got a little sideways. Okay, but they weren't looking for puppets. They were looking for people. They were looking for a way for spirits to experience a material world through limited senses. Okay, so of the off-worlders, it would be the spirit folk. Of the people on the planet, you'd be looking at the fairy folk. Okay, and the quickest way to get in touch with either one of them is start getting along, start working together. The religious people or the spiritual guides that you're following, doesn't matter if it's a temple, a church, a synagogue, a coven, taking care of people properly and quit letting people starve and quit throwing so much stuff away that doesn't need to be destroyed. You know, throwing food out because somebody might sue you, well, don't let the court case go to court. Because, you know, quite frankly, you're feeding the homeless, feeding the poor, or quit making the stuff in the first place. Quit wasting so much, and you'll get the attention of the fairy folk and the spirit folk.
All right. My friend, we are done for the night. Thank you so much for being on Space Out Radio as per usual. You are, once again, one of the most exciting guests that we have on a nightly basis, Keith.
Well, thank you very much for having me again. Glad to be here, and thanks so much for the wonderful questions from everybody.
Absolutely, and we will do it again on Friday, April 1st. So no making April Fool's jokes when you're coming with the alien
Yeah, I'm not
talk.
good at them anyway. I'm not good at those anyway.
Well, we'll save those. We'll save those for Joey in the Space Out Radio chat room because he'll try and tell us the New York Mets are a good baseball team. So we'll leave it at that. All right, Keith. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Absolutely. Thanks again to you and all of your listeners.
Thank you.
Do you have a topic or guest you'd like to hear on Spaced Out Radio? Email us, dave@spacedoutradio.com. Send us a quick message on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio or a message on our Facebook page, Spaced Out Radio. Once again, here's Dave Scott.
And once again, I want to thank our Keith Andrews for stopping on by for his monthly appearance here on Space Out Radio. He does it the first Friday of every month. We learned a lot about ETs. Your questions from the Space Out Radio chat room and Paranormal Into the Night were fantastic tonight. Thank you so much for being a part of it. That's why we do it. It's a little bit unbelievable, but the one thing is Keith has nothing to hide. He's just going by what he's been told. I love it. That's why he comes on every month. Hey, I'm stepping away from the microphone for the next 48 hours. I'm heading off into the wilderness. My backpack is packed. Maybe I'll find a cave to tune into Space Out Weekend if it has good Wi-Fi. James Tyson, Space Out Weekend, Saturday and Sunday night, starting at 10 p.m. Pacific tomorrow, 9 p.m. Pacific on Sunday, before I'm back in the hot seat on Monday, where my guest will be Reverend John Polk. We'll be talking UFOs, contact, as well as his new book. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Hope you had a fun week. We're wrapping this thing up quickly, like 10 seconds. Now it'd be like 9, 8. You can count down. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of it. Hope you like the new intro, too. Good night.